Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another lovely episode of the Slovak Mountain Man. That is I, the Slovak Mountain Man, and today we shall be taking a yonder at my favorite marsupial, Crash Bandicoot. Tis no better time than now, as we are but a few weeks away from the N.Sane ReMaster Trilogy, which I am extremely excited for, and to celebrate, I've decided to replay all three of the original PlayStation 1 classics. Now, my beginnings with Crash do not actually start with the first title, however, but the sequels. In other words, growing up with the second and third games made up a huge part of my childhood and kind of spoiled me in a way, as the improvements that made them so great are quite lacking in the original. But we'll save these two for the future. As for now, let's get right into Crash Bandicoot and see what made this orange experiment into one of Sony's biggest icons. Created and developed by Naughty Dog, a company founded by two friends which needs no introduction nowadays, as their craftsmanship in the video game industry has been entertaining us well over 30 years. It is no surprise that these franchises are considered some of the best titles on each system, as they strive to make awesome experiences and fully push consoles to their limit. It is this mindset that has helped pique the interest of Universal Studios in signing a 3-game contract with Naughty Dog, which ultimately sparked the birth of Crash Bandicoot. With the clean, sleek, and serious tone of the new Sony PlayStation 1, Naughty Dog took a risk and chose to develop their upcoming IP onto this powerful little gray box. Little did they know it would eventually ship them 40 million copies worldwide. Originally nicknamed Sonic's Ass Game, this idea was intended to compete against the ideas of both Mario and Sonic, as Sony was desperately in need of its own mascot character. They wanted the game to focus on an unknown yet cute animal species, and decided upon either the Wombat, Portaroo, or Bandicoot. This character would then interact in a 3D action platformer and move up along the screen with the player controlling from the rear view. As development continued, Willy the Wombat became the title's temporary name, before eventually landing on Crash Bandicoot. Universal didn't see this as family friendly though, and suggested a name change, but Naughty Dog wasn't having any of that, and even threatened to leave the project entirely. So after some bamboozling, Crash Bandicoot was finally released on September 9th, 1996, and the story begins after waiting a few moments during the menu screen, and introduced the game's main villain, Dr. Neo Cortex, a mad scientist, and his henchman, Embryo, as their thirst for world domination helped them invent a machine capable of turning the local island animals into an unstoppable fierce army. And all seemed to be going well until a Bandicoot was brought over for brainwashing in attempts to become the leader of that army, but the mind control device was far from ready and actually failed on Crash, causing him to lose every bit of intelligence instead. Deemed a failure, he is now chased out of Cortex's castle shortly before experimentations begin on his girlfriend Tawna. So it's a pretty simple story overall, just beat the levels, collect the boxes, fight the bosses, and save the babe. But in order for Crash to save Tawna, he must travel to 3 separate islands southeast of Australia. Any farther and he might come into contact with Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, which could actually make for a pretty awesome spin-off. The levels mainly consist of moving Crash forward, backward, sideways, and up while jumping or spinning on enemies to attack. It's a pretty straightforward control scheme, but one that doesn't support the analog sticks, as the DualShock controller hasn't been made available yet until the next year. And the original Crash Bandicoot isn't an easy game at all, especially when going for that 100% completion like I did, so you better get used to stabbing your thumb into the D-pad real quickly. It brings me back to the summer of 6 years ago. 6 years ago. As Jakub just received a Nintendo Entertainment System packaged with 13 games, one of those being Ninja Gaiden. Little did Jakub know he would spend 3 long days suffering through to beat it. That game changes a man, and Jakub was never the same again. Don't be like Jakub kitties. Protect those thumbs as if they were the only pair you had. Aside from its D-pad, the original controller is extremely light and comfortable though, but I can't help and feel that it's kind of funny looking with the missing analog sticks. Now the 3 islands revolve around the separate theme. The first has more of a tribal atmosphere and starts out pretty simple with villages and tiki men following you around, and then transitions into the second as the difficulty rises and ruins begin to fill the forest instead. And finally the third island is more mechanical as machines and technology guard every pathway to Cortex's castle, and after flying through a window, Crash washes up alongside the beach and our adventure begins. The levels are actually pretty awesome themselves, full of vibrant colors and all kinds of small details on the screen that are easily missed noticeable the first time around, such as these insects randomly floating around Crash. Accompanied by these gnarly background tunes of drums and flutes mixed together with natural sounds of animals howling, it really makes each level feel unique and alive. Crash also displays a number of facial expressions depending on his current situation. And the developers behind the N.Sane ReMaster Trilogy have also asked fans of Crash Bandicoot to create their own ideal animation, as the winner would get their own idea fully animated into the final game. This is probably the best way the developers could have thanked their fans, and I hope more follow this awesome example. But my favorite without a doubt has to be the victory pose itself. It's not as great as the dance from, Crash 2 and 3, but it does, get a little chuckle out of me every time I see it. His death animations are also quite fun to experiment with, as I found myself purposely getting squashed, eaten, or blown to pieces just to see them all. And it only takes one hit to kill Crash though, adding to the already difficult challenge of this game. But have no fear, as Aku Aku is here, a tribal witch doctor trapped within his own mask that acts as a shield for any upcoming attacks before disappearing. Collect 3 masks and Crash wears Aku Aku for about 30 seconds, while not only gaining the power of invincibility, but also an awesome theme song. Now, I created this mask myself, to celebrate Crash Bandicoot's legacy and what he has done for me during my childhood, and I didn't know Pap can jiggle that fast. It was beautiful, brought me to little tears, But, as a fan of the series, I have heard many discussions of what exactly Aku Aku says, be it Hudabaga or Rudabaga. But to me, I have always heard Uga Buga ever since the toddler days, and even nicknamed Aku Aku this phrase. He is extremely useful in the Crash Bandicoot series, and has helped me finish through the games more times than I can count, and it is the most satisfying feeling ever when you finally make it fast enough to one of these wall of boxes and just completely destroy them while still being in that invincible state. And one of the coolest levels even involve Aku Aku not as a shield, but a light source. It is such an awesome concept that incorporates speed, patience, and skill all in one level. Take your time and everything goes completely dark as Crash blindly runs through this death trap. Go too fast and you're most likely to either slip off an edge or get sliced by these blades. Other levels I enjoyed include running around at the speed of sound on a wild warthog. It snorts in panic and is the funniest thing ever as Crash makes his iconic eyebrows before mounting the beast. And it looks like he wants more than just a piece of that booty though. But who doesn't, am I right? But there's nothing more satisfying than collecting every box here on your first try. Another is escaping the boulder and preventing it from flattening Crash. These are such a turd as your controls need to be precisely on point. Make one jump too early or late or even turn the wrong way and death is coming for you without a doubt. And this boulder doesn't mess around either. It will take Crash down and squish you even if you're but a few feet away from safety. Then are the ones that you need to carefully balance across a broken bridge while platforming on the other side. The design is not only awesome but the perfect example of taking full advantage of Crash's shadow as a guide to where he jumps next. It is extremely helpful when Crash disappears, somewhere off screen, but you can still clearly see the dark circle underneath him, as the character himself has some weight, while moving around, so it can be a bit tricky to control. And without that shadow, I don't think I'd be able to finish most of these levels at all, especially when you're trying to complete Slippery Climb. Those who have played this level know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't care if you've collected a million lives and spent 10 years getting to that point, because it will grab you and kill you every single time, so you lose them all right before the final boss too. And as difficult as this level is, Naughty Dog actually removed an alternate and even more brutal version of this level from the final cut of the game, and that being Stormy Ascent. It is one of the hardest platforming levels I have ever played. Both are actually pretty similar too, but only this one is unlocked by using a GameShark cheat device with some codes. There are still a few apparent bugs here and there that you can obviously see needed a few fixing, and despite that, this level is actually still playable, so I challenged myself and tried to finish it. It took about 3 hours of attempts to do and many deaths later, but I actually did it. From timing my jumps on these platforms, then carefully sliding through some spikes, dodging the death traps by these scientists, flying through more platforms, and body slamming giant birds, but still collecting all 34 boxes and not using any checkpoints or dying even once. And it was completely insane. No words can explain just how awesome it felt, finally stepping on that teleporter and claiming, the victory pose. We did it. Only took 3 hours. only took 3 hours, which, didn't exist, of course, because it glitched out, at the ending. But even then, I would highly recommend everyone try Stormy Ascent if you can. It is by far easily my favorite level in Crash Bandicoot, and here's hoping that it comes back as an unlockable during the N.Sane ReMaster Trilogy. As I mentioned before, I went for the 100% completion of this game, which required you to collect all 20 clear gems, the 6 color gems, and 2 Cortex keys. Getting those gems though was probably what made it so difficult. Not only must you finish each level with every box collected, but you have to do it without dying and on your first try, meaning that the checkpoints are completely useless as the box count itself resets with every single death, which means that if you collect 15 boxes, get a checkpoint, or even burn yourself alive in the process, you still have to reset after each life is lost. And most of these levels aren't even designed to be finished backwards either, so even if you manage to recollect some of the nearby boxes, there's normally a point that prevents Crash from traveling all the way back to the start of the level without resetting. It's a giant turd, but what's even worse is when you carefully have to make your way through a brutal level and plan one step at a time, trying to make it, all the way to the end, just to reveal that there is still one box missing. No! And the color gems are no different, as they replace clear gems in certain levels but still follow the same requirements. They do, however, reveal secret paths with even more boxes to find, and some even ask Crash to take a leap of faith and trust the game not to bamboozle us. If it weren't for the viewers from my Crash Bandicoot live streams telling me this, I would have never known. There were many of these moments too, mostly found by the teleporter itself, so there's nothing worse than going through all that trouble and effort to be really close to that gem and then accidentally falling off and needing to reset one more time. There are also the Cortex, Embryo, and Tana bonus tokens to discover in specific stages. They're kind of scattered throughout the levels, but by collecting all 3, you get transported to the individual bonus rounds. The Cortex tokens have keys in them and took a few hours to actually attempt, but they unlock 2 new levels. Embryos, however, is the exact opposite. They're just for fun, if you just want to challenge yourself with no other real purpose, while Tanas are used for saving the game. It's probably my least favorite aspect of the original Crash Bandicoot, as these aren't really found that often either and can be quite tricky to finish, and getting a game over will take you right back to the last save point, so finding these are necessary in making any progress, especially if you manage to somehow glitch the game while putting save. Did I glitch the game? Oh, did I glitch the game? And remember Cortex's plan of creating an army during the opening intro? Well, those experiments actually play a role in this game and become the boss battles against Crash, with the first one actually, being the only exception. Papu Papu, the Tiki tribe master of Island 1, is a lazy squish cosplaying as my brother Pap. I mean, just look at them, they're basically related. And, actually, now that I think about it, multiply Pap's name by 2 and add a U at the end, and look at this, what does this spell? By golly, it's Papu Papu. I think Pap might actually be the first boss of Crash Bandicoot. Coincidence? I think not. Everything we have been through, has that all been a lie? All those memories from our childhood? Do you think Pap is living a secret life? I'm not sure, but right now, I'm gonna go and figure it out.
Excuse me, sir. Sir. Do you have any relations or connections with this man right here? Please, speak into the banana and tell me. Do you know Papu Papu right here, this guy right here? Do you know him? Please, interview here, sir. Answer this question. Please, answer my what's on my microphone? What are you doing? Wait, sir, come back, sir. Where's the turd? He's not. Oh, there he is. Pep, he's running. He's Pep. I knew it all along. He is Papu Papu. Maybe one day we'll know the truth. But until then, I guess Pepity will run forever.
Luckily, Papu Papu doesn't run and is the easiest boss you'll ever face. I mean, even my sentence here is longer than the boss fight itself. Then we are introduced to Ripperoo, a psychotic kangaroo of some sort with one of the most memorable evil laughs I have ever heard. Unfortunately, the fight itself is mostly a waiting game though, as TNT crates flow along the river and explode when activated. Time them just right as Ripper lands on a nearby platform and you're basically done. Koala Kong is our next opponent, as his booty shakes allow him to flex these pecs and fling rocks at Crash while dropping explosions from the sky. And if those muscles of his don't poke your eye out, then his booty most likely will. It is a bit tricky, but only requires a few spins to send them boulders back at him. Pinstrip Portaroo, the Mafian hood rat of Crash Bandicoot, then proudly fires a Tommy gun while circling around his office. And as cool as this character might be, it's but another waiting game. Shoot left, then do a spin attack, and then shoot right, do another spin attack, shoot up, spin attack, and repeat this pattern. It's more tedious than anything really, but what I found to be funny is that according to the Crash Bandicoot manga, Tawna actually dumps Crash to be with Pinstrip, so at least, he has the babe going for him. Dr. Nitrous Brio is next on the plate, as he mixes potions to create movable slimes to chase after Crash. Get too close, and his bottles blow up right in your face, but stand a little to the side here, and you're perfectly safe. It's kind of weird, but I enjoyed this challenge of this battle quite a lot, especially after seeing the scrawny henchman turn into this giant Hulk creature. If he wanted to, he can basically stomp Cortex, but instead he's gonna, take it out on Crash. He's kind of a turd too, but it took a few attempts, to bring the bruiser down. And finally, Dr. Neo Cortex, awaiting our arrival at the top of this blimp. The scenery here is just awesome, as we battle it out for the babe while enjoying the sight of Cortex's castle burning in the distance. It is a fight for survival, and one that Crash isn't about to lose now. Dodge the blue and purple laser orbs while spinning to recoil the green ones, defeating Cortex once and for all. It's not the hardest end boss either, but Aku Aku did have to save me, a few times from actually dying. And there's not much more to say, as Tawna lifts Crash into the air, and we're greeted with the game's original ending. But if you manage to successfully obtain 100% with the requires I mentioned earlier, you're actually rewarded with one final gem path, skipping the last battle entirely and going straight into Tawna's arms instead, as both lovers fly away on this giant bird. So it's pretty nice to see Crash Bandicoot finally get Tawna from danger and save her before they disappear into the sunset. And the credits also change to reveal what exactly happened to each boss after being defeated and leaving Cortex's command. It's kind of funny to see, that they put behind their evil ways in pursuit of their hobbies and dreams. And even though I had fun with this game overall, I don't really think collecting all the gems and going for that 100% completion was really worth all that effort just for these cutscenes alone. And with that said, ladies and turds, this actually brings us to the end of our Crash Bandicoot review. So I hope everyone enjoyed watching this video as much as I did actually making it. So don't be sad, because the marsupial's journey is far from being over, as its popularity continued to grow worldwide and actually spanned a number of sequels. So come join us as we take a yonder in the next video with my first title in the Crash series, Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. I have a number of childhood memories, flooding in right now, so hopefully we all have a lovely time during the live stream and the video, because it's been a number of years since I last played this. So I hope everyone enjoyed my videos, taking under the action channel for the action videos, and the gaming channel for the gaming videos. And with that said, here's hoping that the N.Sane Trilogy version of Crash 1 is just as awesome as the original. Thanks for watching, and see you next time everyone. Goodbye everybody. Goodbye. We just finished and look at I don't know how long that was, maybe like 30 minutes or an hour maybe. We were out here doing this. But look at that mark.
I'm dying.
Baby's dying. He's all sweaty. Look at the slime.